For us. Pete, great to see you. Thank you, sir.
You bet, Thomas.
Well, joining me now is Republican Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi. Senator Wicker had actually taken cover during this shooting. Sir, it's great to have you on with us, and let's talk about this from your firsthand perspective, because you were walking from the Capitol to your office when you started to hear those first shots. What went through your mind?
First of all, the Capitol Hill is a very safe place. I've been in office 19 years. I've never heard gunshot until yesterday, so it's without question a sobering thing. I took cover behind an SUV. I noticed that the police officers had already started donning their flak jackets, and the gunfire was coming from the direction where I was headed back to my office. So I took cover, and then a few other senators were coming from that building, and we took cover, and then we obeyed the police officers who told us the best thing to do was get back to the Capitol. We did that.
So obviously it was a chaotic scene, and we're seeing some of the images there of tourists that were around, obviously all doing the same thing, taking those orders to shelter in place, move out of the way in some certain areas. Obviously it's still under investigation for the motivation of what led this young woman there, but certainly very chaotic yesterday in what is already a chaotic Washington, D.C. because of the shutdown. So, sir, while you're here, I want to switch to the fact that you are the deputy whip. You sit on the Budget Committee. We know that Speaker John Boehner has reportedly told his colleagues that he won't allow the government to default on the nation's debt coming up later this month. But when talking about the debt ceiling and saying that we won't default, isn't that putting the cart before the horse? Don't we need to shore up what's going on with the government getting up and running first?
It seems to me that these two issues have now been merged. The temporary budget shutdown and the debt ceiling. If you think about it, the negotiators are looking at a short-term fix and then making another deal right after that. It just seems to me that the natural human impulse is going to be to merge those two issues, and I think that's where we are, particularly as we go into the weekend and into early next week. The time is now to work on both of these issues, and I really wish that more of the parties were involved in actually give and take. It's going to take a little give and take on the part of Democrats and Republicans on the Hill, but also the president's going to have to be involved in this.
What do you think the final result will be? What is the right willing to accept if negotiations really do come to pass?
Well, I think, first of all, the House Republican majority has indicated over and over that they are very interested in opening up parts of the government, funding parts of the government, much as we are supposed to do in an appropriations process. But long term on this debt ceiling issue, we need some structural changes in our mandatory spending to get us to a better place in terms of future generations and the burden of debt that we're placing on them.
But when we speak about where we are with the budget situation and the shutdown in and of itself, those were agreed upon numbers, at sequestration level numbers. So haven't both sides already agreed on where we need to be for the budget? And now we then need to move past that to get to the debt ceiling issue. But this hurdle of getting over the budget is just the sticking pin being Obamacare.
Well, there are policy issues that need to be ironed out. We are where we are, and I don't think either side is going to totally abandon their position. I can just say from a Republican standpoint, we're not going to come away from this series of negotiations with nothing. And we don't expect the Democrats to either. There needs to be give and take. And there are issues involving Obamacare where there is widespread agreement among the American people and also among Republicans and Democrats in the Congress. There are provisions that we can do to temporarily improve this act, while I believe eventually public opinion is going to turn against it.
Senator,
we can repeal
Senator,
taxes.
Pardon me for interrupting. Yes, I just wanted to get to John Boehner is speaking right now.